the scale of the problems and things like that. So we wanted to break it down and try and work out how could we add something that was going to create action, create positivity, create energy towards actually solving some of these problems.
December 2025. The annual inventory at Buckingham Palace should have been routine. Staff members carefully cataloging centuries of royal documents, checking dusty boxes that hadn't been opened in decades. But this year, something was catastrophically different. During the meticulous review, an unnamed file suddenly appeared, one that had never been listed in any official archive catalog. No identification code, no storage date, no record of who placed it there or when. Inside wasn't administrative paperwork. Inside was a photograph that would shake the monarchy to its core. The image showed Prince Harry in the same frame as Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender whose scandal had already destroyed Prince Andrew's reputation. All three men stood together at a remote location with dim lighting and a deliberately angled shot suggesting conspiracy, secrecy, something unforgivable. Prince William immediately understood this was a spark that could ignite an inferno. If this photograph became public, it wouldn't just ruin Harry, it would consume them all. William made a critical decision. He chose to keep it secret and quietly investigate, even as questions multiplied in his mind. Elsewhere, when Harry learned of the photograph's existence, he knew that if it leaked, everything he'd built in California would collapse instantly. His response was desperate. A midnight theft attempt that would change everything. Why did that file suddenly appear? Is the photograph genuine? And who will pay the price before the truth is revealed? The discovery that changed everything. Buckingham Palace in December was shrouded in thick fog, carrying centuries of secrets within its ancient walls. Prince William, as heir to the throne, had ordered a comprehensive inventory of the royal archives, an annual ritual few outside ever knew about. The atmosphere was controlled chaos. Staff members with calloused hands flipped through hundreds of dusty containers, checking every page meticulously. Amid this organized frenzy, a middle-aged cleaner named Thomas, who had served faithfully for over 2 decades, suddenly discovered something deeply unusual. Among familiar files lay a tightly wrapped bundle in thick brown paper. No name, no identification code, no sign of being part of any official inventory. Thomas's heart skipped. Decades of palace service had given him instinct for when something wasn't right. He brought it directly to Prince William, who stood nearby overseeing the process. "Sir, this isn't on any list," Thomas whispered, his voice trembling as he handed over the mysterious file. William took it. The seal bore an unfamiliar stamp, not matching current systems, as if from a forgotten era. William's face changed instantly. Deep unease surged through his chest. "Keep this absolutely secret," he ordered, his voice sharp as a blade. "Not a word to anyone. Bring it to my private room immediately." William gripped the file tightly, his steps quicker than usual through palace corridors. This wasn't time for public panic. He was the elder brother, the future king, the guardian of the family's fragile reputation. He had to handle this correctly. The photograph that shouldn't exist. William's private office was a quiet sanctuary with ancient oak walls and dim lamplight. He locked the door, drew heavy curtains shut, then sat at his desk and took a deep breath. With trembling hands, William tore open the wrapping, revealing yellowed pages that smelled of secrets. Then the photograph appeared. The shock hit like lightning. It was Harry, his younger brother, the boy who'd stood beside him at their mother's funeral. Harry was standing right next to Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew on a deserted suburban road. The photo was taken from distance with suspicious angle. Faint street lamps created distorted shadows, emphasizing the clandestine nature. Harry's face was crystal clear, wearing a forced smile, his hand raised as if participating in some unforgivable secret meeting. Epstein wore his familiar, sinister grin. Andrew beside them completed a deadly trio. William held his breath as fierce anger surged through him. Harry, the brother who once shared every secret, how could he be involved with a monster like Epstein? But instead of slamming his fist or shouting, William restrained himself with iron discipline. He understood the royal family existed as a glass castle. Even the smallest crack could shatter everything. The Epstein scandal still haunted public consciousness. Prince Andrew's reputation was destroyed. If this photograph leaked, it wouldn't just destroy Harry. It would drag William, Kate, and King Charles down with it. "Don't rush to judgment," he whispered to himself. "Personal emotions must yield to reason." William spent the afternoon reviewing the file's contents. No detailed notes, no clear dates, just vague annotations in faded ink. But the photograph remained the center, a ticking time bomb. He recalled bitter arguments with Harry before his brother left royal life. "Have you really changed this much?" William muttered, heart aching. But he didn't immediately call Harry, didn't inform Charles. Instead, he compiled a list of trusted confidants. An image analysis expert who'd worked for MI5, a former intelligence officer specialized in tracing suspicious documents, a digital forensics specialist. "Start immediately," he messaged through encrypted channels. "Absolute discretion. Report only to me." The next morning, the quiet investigation began, and the shadow of that unnamed file started spreading, threatening to tear apart the family's most fragile bonds. Harry's desperate return. News reached Harry's ears faster than anyone imagined, not through press or social media, but through Mrs. Eleanor, the nanny who'd cared for him since childhood. One late evening in Montecito, his phone rang with unusual urgency. "Prince Harry, I need to tell you something." Mrs. Eleanor's voice trembled. "I accidentally overheard the conversation between Prince William and his investigation team. There's an old photograph involving you and that terrible Epstein man. They're keeping it completely secret." Harry dropped the phone, face draining of color. He had never met Jeffrey Epstein in any context. He was absolutely certain. But if a photograph existed, even if fabricated, it could shatter everything he'd worked to build. His carefully constructed image as devoted father and mental health advocate would be obliterated instantly. Fury and fear surged through his chest. That night, Harry booked a secret flight to London, informing no one. He flew across the Atlantic in darkness, eyes wide open, mind racing with scenarios. When the plane landed at Heathrow in cold dawn, Harry pulled a cap low, wrapped himself in nondescript jacket, and quietly rented a car under false name. He drove toward London like a ghost returning from exile. He didn't enter Buckingham Palace immediately. Instead, he parked blocks away, sitting alone in darkness, observing from distance. The familiar palace lights flickered. Guards stood at rigid posts, but everything felt painfully distant. This had once been his home, where he'd grown up with William, where they'd laughed as carefree brothers. Now it had become a fortress of suspicion. Harry sat for hours as dawn broke, heart heavy with bitterness. "If they don't believe me, I'll find the truth myself," he told himself with grim determination. The theft that went wrong. Taking advantage of New Year's celebration preparations, a grand event that would temporarily loosen security, Harry decided to act. He contacted Marcus, a private detective who'd helped him before. The man was professional, discreet, and loyal to whoever paid his substantial fees. "I need you to access a specific file from the palace archive," Harry explained through encrypted phone. "Just photograph what's inside. Don't take the original. Leave no trace." Marcus, understanding the gravity and extraordinary payment, agreed immediately. Harry waited in a small London hotel, heart pounding, trying desperately to recall where he might have been at that time. The initial plan proceeded smoothly. Marcus exploited the party's beginning. Music echoing, guests laughing, champagne flowing, to slip through staff entrance using forged credentials Harry had arranged. The archive room was in the basement, dark and quiet in stark contrast to celebration above. Marcus found William's office easily. The file was on the desk, almost waiting. He opened it quickly, used a specialized camera to photograph the damning image. His heart raced with success. Everything seemed perfect. But then disaster struck. Princess Charlotte had been playing hide-and-seek with her brother Louis in vast palace corridors. The clever 9-year-old decided to hide under the large desk in her father's office, the one place no one would think to look. She curled up in confined space, holding her breath as she heard unfamiliar footsteps. Marcus entered completely unaware. He opened the file, photographed contents with mechanical precision. Charlotte lay beneath the desk, eyes wide with fear and curiosity, observing everything through a crack in the wooden paneling. Royal training taught her to remain calm in danger. Only when Marcus's footsteps faded did Charlotte crawl out and run to her father in the main hall. "Daddy, there was a stranger in your room," Charlotte whispered urgently, tugging at William's sleeve. William felt his blood freeze, but he quickly masked shock with a reassuring smile. "Are you absolutely certain, darling? Tell me exactly what you saw." Charlotte recounted every detail with surprising clarity. William immediately signaled security. "Seal all palace exits. Detain anyone attempting to leave who cannot provide proper authorization." Within 10 minutes, Marcus was apprehended. Security escorted him to an underground interrogation room where harsh lights eliminated any shadows where lies might hide. Through intense questioning, Marcus didn't hold out long. "I was hired by Prince Harry," he finally confessed, voice weary, "just to photograph the image, not remove it." William stood behind one-way glass, hearing every word, feeling his heart plummet into darkness. For the first time, genuine doubt crept in about his brother's innocence. Before this moment, he desperately hoped the photo was fabricated, that Harry was innocent. But this sneaky action, hiring someone to break into the family palace rather than simply asking, changed everything. Was Harry hiding something terrible? Or had his brother become so paranoid he could no longer trust even family? The investigation that revealed everything. William couldn't sleep for nights after Marcus's arrest. The image of Harry hiring someone to infiltrate his former home haunted him endlessly. Despite emotional turmoil, William refused to let feelings guide actions. He became even more methodical, ordering increased security while keeping the incident completely classified. But the biggest question persisted. What did Harry's desperate behavior prove? William chose to dig deeper, expanding investigation quietly and systematically. He focused intensely on the photograph itself, the key to all suspicions. William contacted the best experts he knew, a digital image analysis team that had worked on national security cases, a former intelligence investigator specialized in detecting sophisticated forgeries. They worked in complete secrecy at a separate location with military-grade security protocols. William sent a copy through encrypted channels with clear instructions. Analyze every microscopic detail. Determine date, time, exact location, lighting conditions, shooting angle, and any manipulation signs. The days waiting felt endless. William continued performing royal duties flawlessly while his world threatened collapse internally. Finally, the preliminary report arrived. Experts identified the location, a sparsely traveled suburban road in Windsor, near Prince Andrew's old private residence at Royal Lodge. Estimated time frame was 2001 to 2002, based on street lamp styles and barely discernible license plates. The photograph was taken from considerable distance with awkward angle, as if the photographer had hidden behind bushes. Weak lighting and elongated shadows matched a cold autumn night. William read the technical report, heart beating faster. "This is real progress," he told himself. "But I need to go further." He made a risky decision his security team would have hated. He decided to follow these traces personally. One foggy morning, William drove alone to the identified area wearing civilian clothes. Jeans, simple jacket, cap pulled low. No bodyguards. A necessary risk to avoid attention. The road was even more desolate now. Old houses stood abandoned after Andrew's scandal. Weeds grew wild. Only a few elderly residents remained. William walked slowly along that forgotten road, trying to imagine the scene from that night decades ago. After persistent hours knocking on doors, most residents simply shook their heads. Memories had faded. But then, at a small cottage at the road's end, a house with wilted garden and peeling paint, an elderly man named Harold opened his door. He was over 80 with snow-white hair, but his voice remained surprisingly clear. William introduced himself as a private researcher investigating historical events. Harold invited him in, brewed hot tea, and then, like a miracle, memories returned with startling clarity. "That particular night," Harold said slowly, "I remember very clearly. A luxury car stopped right there. Prince Andrew stepped out talking to a strange man, someone the press later called Epstein. Just the two of them. I'm absolutely certain." Harold continued, "I stood behind my curtain watching out of curiosity. It was very late. The night was incredibly quiet. I saw them talking maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Then they got back in the car and drove away. Just those two men, no one else." William listened to every word, feeling powerful light finally piercing darkness. "Are you absolutely certain?" he asked, voice trembling. "No third person? No younger man?" "Completely certain," Harold replied, meeting William's eyes directly. "Just those two. No one else." That simple testimony became the first pivotal breakthrough, powerfully shaking the photograph's validity. William left with relief and renewed determination. He immediately called his expert team. "Accelerate the analysis. I have eyewitness testimony contradicting the photograph." Hope that Harry was innocent grew stronger. But a darker question arose. If Harry wasn't present, who inserted him into the photograph? And for what terrible purpose? The truth about Andrew's revenge. The accumulated clues gradually led William toward a truth darker than he'd imagined. The analysis team sent their comprehensive final report on a gloomy afternoon with rain pouring against palace windows. The photograph had been digitally manipulated. The work was executed so sophisticatedly it was nearly perfect to untrained eyes. Harry's face had been extracted from another public photograph and cleverly inserted into the original scene. Manipulation included meticulous adjustments to lighting, shadows, and resolution, creating natural appearance. Only microscopic anomalies revealed truth. Slight blur along Harry's collar, subtle shadow mismatch, pixel density variations detectable only under specialized software. William read the report, hand-gripping paper until it wrinkled. "Digitally manipulated," he whispered. "So Harry is completely innocent." Relief washed over him, mixed immediately with fresh anger. Someone had deliberately, maliciously framed his brother. Who would do this? And why target Harry? William didn't require long to trace remaining clues. The unnamed file had been discovered during inventory of items recovered from Royal Lodge, where Prince Andrew had lived before complete isolation following the Epstein scandal. Everything suddenly connected with horrifying clarity. Andrew, the once pampered uncle, now living in humiliation, stripped of all military titles and royal honors. He'd been completely sidelined, becoming a cursed figure within his own family. William recalled recent encounters. Andrew's eyes had been filled with barely concealed resentment, words carrying veiled accusations about injustice. Now the full picture became devastatingly clear. After losing everything that mattered, status, reputation, role, Andrew had refused to accept his fate quietly. He'd sunk into deepening hatred, nurturing toxic conviction that the entire royal family had sacrificed him. Andrew's plot was calculated and cruel. He'd contacted an old technician who'd worked for tabloid newspapers, someone skilled in photographic manipulation. Together, they transformed the original photograph, showing only Andrew and Epstein, into a weapon of revenge. Andrew had purchased that original years earlier, paying substantially to keep it hidden. Now he repurposed it as destruction instrument. By inserting Harry, Andrew created devastating narrative that Harry, the brother who'd escaped to freedom, was actually just as compromised. It would shift blame, create internal suspicion, tear them apart from within. Andrew deliberately mixed the manipulated file into recovered items, knowing the inventory would bring it to William's attention. To the strict elder brother, who always placed royal honor above everything. It was a slow-burning trap set with meticulous hatred. Andrew knew he'd already lost everything. This wasn't about saving himself. This was about causing maximum damage, making the family suffer as he had suffered. William decided immediate confrontation was necessary. One cold evening, he drove to Andrew's rented house unannounced, bringing only 2 discreet bodyguards who waited outside. Andrew opened the door, aged face showing surprise mixed with exhausted wariness. "William, what brings you here?" he asked defensively. William stepped into the cold living room and placed the file on the coffee table. "You know exactly why I'm here, Uncle," he said calmly but with icy edge. "The manipulated photograph. Your plot to destroy Harry." Andrew initially denied everything outright, forcing confused smile and insisting he knew nothing. But when William presented overwhelming evidence, technical analysis, Harold's testimony, bank transaction records leading to the photographic technician, Andrew's facade crumbled completely. His face drained of color. Hands began trembling. "I just wanted fairness," Andrew finally admitted in later conversation with King Charles, voice thick with bitterness. "Harry gets to fly free while I'm locked here like a criminal. Where's the justice?" No genuine remorse. Only resentment. William left with heart heavier than when he'd arrived. He felt genuine pity for the uncle who'd once been close, who'd taught him polo, told jokes at family dinners. But pity couldn't excuse what Andrew had attempted: Harry's counterattack. While William systematically exposed Andrew's revenge plot, Harry in Montecito hadn't remained passive. He'd hired his own team of private investigators to independently trace the photograph's origin. Tense hours passed with encrypted calls. Harry paced relentlessly, heart consumed by fury, fear, and desperate determination. Meghan noticed the change, gently asking, "Harry, are you okay? Don't let this destroy everything we've built." Harry embraced his wife, voice trembling. "I have to prove my innocence, Meghan. Otherwise, everything we've sacrificed will shatter completely." What Harry didn't know was William was already investigating on his behalf. Harry saw only the palace's silence, which he interpreted as implicit accusation. After weeks following faint digital breadcrumbs, Harry's team finally tracked down the original photographer. Victor Lang, now over 60, living in seclusion in a small Oregon coastal town. Lang had been involved in shady dealings with British tabloids in the early 2000s, making money secretly photographing celebrities. Harry flew to Oregon under manufactured identity as independent journalist. He met Lang in a nearly deserted coffee shop where sea salt mixed with stale cigarette smoke. "I took that photograph in late 2001, Lang confessed, voice rough from age and regret. just Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein on that suburban Windsor road. I hid behind bushes. You, Prince Harry, were absolutely not there. I'm completely certain." Lang continued. "Andrew discovered I'd taken the photo. He tracked me down, threatened me, then bought the original film for £50,000. He made me sign documents promising I'd never speak about it." Harry held the original photograph Lang handed over, showing only two men. Andrew with tense smile next to Epstein's sinister grin. No trace of Harry. His heart raced with relief and blazing indignation. Andrew did this to get revenge on me, Harry thought. However, instead of sharing this exonerating evidence with William or his father, Harry made a catastrophic decision driven by years of accumulated bitterness. He arranged an exclusive interview with a major American television network. "I have definitive proof," Harry told the producer, voice radiating determination. "Proof that my family knew Andrew manipulated this photograph, but they chose silence to protect him." The interview was conducted within days under glaring studio lights in Los Angeles. "Prince Harry, this photograph showing you with Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew. Can you tell us if it's authentic?" the host asked. Harry shook his head firmly, holding up the original photograph to the camera. "This is the real photograph," he stated clearly. "Just Andrew and Epstein. The palace has known from the beginning that someone manipulated it to include me. William knew. My father knew. They uncovered Andrew's plot, but chose strategic silence. They protect the institution by sacrificing individual members, by sacrificing me. Again." His voice trembled with rehearsed anger, eyes reddening when mentioning his mother Diana. "I won't let history repeat itself. The Epstein scandal still demands accountability. And now my own family has chosen to use me as a shield to cover even darker secrets. They know the truth, but choose institutional survival over justice, over family." The accusations exploded across global media like a nuclear bomb. Public opinion immediately boiled over. The hashtag Epstein Royal Cover-Up trended worldwide within hours. Harry initially felt vindication and triumph. Finally, he had a powerful voice. But in his blind fury, Harry had made a catastrophic error. He transformed truth into a sharp weapon, placing personal emotions above already fragile family bonds. He hadn't waited for William to complete investigation, hadn't called to ask what was happening, hadn't given his brother basic courtesy of conversation. Instead, he'd plunged into public warfare, pushing himself further away than ever. The confrontation that shattered everything. Harry's explosive accusations spread globally like wildfire, creating unprecedented media storm. In Montecito, Harry watched coverage with satisfaction, believing he'd struck a decisive blow against the royal system. At Buckingham Palace, William could no longer maintain disciplined calm. He watched the interview multiple times. Every word from Harry felt like a knife, cutting deep into his heart. "He's deliberately slandering me," William told Kate late that night, voice trembling. "Harry knows I've been investigating to protect him, but he still rushed out to accuse me publicly." Kate embraced her husband. "Harry is destroying himself, but this time he's gone too far." William made a painful decision. He would no longer remain silent. He summoned Harry back to England immediately, not through gentle invitation, but through official palace message carrying weight of royal authority. Prince Harry is formally required to return to clarify the serious and unfounded accusations he has made. Harry flew back filled with defensive tension, expecting another confrontation. But when he stepped into King Charles's private office, he realized the atmosphere was entirely different from imagined. Only 3 people were present: Charles sitting with stern gravity, William standing beside him with thick stack of documents, and Harry, led in like a defendant. The air felt cold. No embraces, no tears. Charles spoke first, voice carrying authority, and disappointment. "Harry, you have gone beyond acceptable bounds. Your public accusations against your brother are not only false, but deliberately destructive." William stepped forward and placed comprehensive evidence on the table. Detailed photographic manipulation analysis, Harold's signed testimony, Andrew's financial transaction records. Even recording of William's confrontation with Andrew, where the disgraced prince had admitted his revenge plot. "This is what I've been doing in complete silence since that photograph was discovered," William said, voice controlled but carrying profound emotion. "From day one, I investigated to protect you, Harry. I maintained silence, not to cover anything up, but to avoid premature scandal that would harm you specifically." Harry looked at the overwhelming documentation, face visibly paling. He slowly pulled out the original photograph from Victor Lang, the one he'd believed was his trump card. It matched exactly what William had possessed for weeks. "So you knew everything from the beginning?" Harry asked, voice faltering. "You were protecting me the entire time?" William nodded, eyes meeting Harry's directly with mixture of pain and disappointment. "Yes, and you also knew the photograph was fabricated. You had your own independent proof. But instead of waiting, instead of calling me, you deliberately chose to rush to international media and publicly slander me. You intentionally distorted truth to serve your personal narrative that the royal family always sacrifices you." Harry bowed his head, trying to formulate justification. "I thought you would protect Andrew like you've always protected the institution." But Charles interrupted. "No, Harry. This time you are completely wrong. You had every opportunity to wait, to communicate, to trust your brother. But you chose to weaponize your pain, to attack your family publicly. That isn't being a victim. That is calculated harm." William continued, voice finally breaking slightly with genuine emotion. "I protected you for months, even when you hired that man to break into the palace, even when your actions made me doubt you. I kept investigating because you're my brother, but you repaid that loyalty by slandering me to the entire world." The words hung in air like final verdict. "You didn't just harm me," William added quietly. "You harmed yourself most of all." Harry sat in complete silence, perhaps for the first time in years, without ready excuses. He finally understood the magnitude of what he'd done. His accusations had been based entirely on assumptions, on years of resentment, on his predetermined narrative that the family would always choose institutional survival over individual justice. He had deliberately slandered William to bolster his image as perpetual victim. The palace issued an official statement within hours, strong, uncompromising, and legally precise. Prince Harry has been the victim of a maliciously manipulated photograph created by Prince Andrew. However, Prince Harry's recent public accusations that Prince William and the royal family engaged in cover-up are completely baseless and demonstrably false. The silence Harry interpreted as cover-up was actually thorough investigation designed to protect all parties and establish truth beyond doubt. William returned to official duties, maintaining composure publicly, but carrying a deep wound that might never heal. The bond between brothers, already severely damaged, might now be broken beyond repair. Harry sent multiple apology messages, but received no response whatsoever. Andrew was placed in complete isolation, but the greatest damage hadn't been inflicted on him. The real casualties were William and Harry, two brothers who'd once been inseparable, who'd survived their mother's death together, who'd promised to always protect each other. That promise now lay shattered, destroyed not by Andrew's malice, but by Harry's refusal to trust the one person who'd never stopped fighting for him. In your opinion, should Harry have patiently waited for truth to be established? Or was his choice to act independently an inevitable reaction from someone who felt perpetually sacrificed? Should William forgive his brother's devastating betrayal? Or are some wounds too deep to heal? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this investigation revealed truths that shocked you, remember to like this video, share it, and subscribe for more deep investigations into secrets hidden behind palace walls. The truth about the Epstein photograph has been exposed, but the price paid by this family might prove more devastating than the scandal itself.